exploration of space will go ahead, and it is one of the great adventures of all time.
Our next speaker, we're taking it in a slightly different direction, going more in the direction of communications. We're going to head on over to Miss Ayushee Chaudhary. So Ayushee is an aerospace journalist, creative editor, educator, and she was nominated for Global Aerospace Media Awards in 2020 and Aerospace Media Awards Asia in 2020 as well. She is a space enthusiast, a travel opportunist, and a creative who occasionally engages in spoken word poetry. So let's bring it on over to Miss Ayushee. All right, over to you, Ayushee.
All right, thank you so much, Kim, for introducing, and I love your energy throughout the webinar. I hope everybody's having a good time here. It's been quite an interesting panel. We've heard a lot about space. So before I get into my journey a lot, here's a question that I have for everyone. Have you ever looked up at the sky? Like a pretty simple question. Yes, no, you could type in the chat. And as a follow-up question, since, of course, a lot of us have, here's a follow-up question for which, if you can, try using a link that I've put. Otherwise, you could also just type in the chat. When you think about the sky or when you hear the word sky, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? What do you think of when you hear the word sky? The sun, Mars, right? So there are different things for different people that might come to our mind. I've got the answers like rainbow, clouds, sun, Mars, various things based on who we are. So I will just expand on that question here. Have you ever looked up at the sky, wondered about that twinkle, twinkle little star shining up above the world so high, or imagined shapes in the clouds making their way across the sky, or watched the trail from a jet or rocket leave behind some sort of footprints in the skyline? Or maybe you've seen a bird or a fleet of them soaring high, an airplane crossing by, the sunset or the sunrise, or maybe the moon hanging up in the night. Or maybe you've just observed the changing shades of this vast, borderless shelter that we have. I'm sure you have done one of it, or maybe some of it, or all of it. But at some point, we have all either looked up at the sky, or heard a loud thunder from the sky, or felt the rains pouring down to us, haven't we? The point being that we have all commonly felt a contact with the sky. Me, for one, has had my head tilted towards the sky for as long as I can remember. I've been obsessed by its beauty, its fury, its embrace, and its unifying limitlessness. The sky has been my window to the universe, and my connect with the world around us as well as the world beyond, and hence the subject of space. So that is what my story is when it comes to space. The sky has been my window to it. I'll take you to a brief presentation that I have made, and I would love for it to be as interactive, and if all of you can just participate, engage, and let's make it a conversation and not just me giving a speech here. All right, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Is it loaded?
There we go.
Yeah. Awesome. So as Kim already introduced me, I'm an aerospace journalist from India by profession and a space enthusiast by passion, as I'd like to say. I've been nominated for Aerospace Media Awards, and I wish to strengthen the awareness around the space industry and help young students transform this fascination that we have for space and this passion into profession. For which I did a Master in Space Economy program from SCAC Business School, and now I'm also a national coordinator for India with them. I'm also an outreach manager with Vyomika Space Academy, and also have started my own platform called Space Sheets. So alongside my media and content journey, I stay in touch with a lot of education startups, interact with students regularly, and hope to get their curiosity nudged a bit. Now, this is something that has already been touched upon in the panel, and I'm just going to ask it again, which will also tell me how active everyone here is. So how are we connected today here? If I were to ask you this question, how are we connected? Anybody in the chat who could answer? Through satellite technology. Right. So as Wanjiku already mentioned while he was talking about his journey, we are connected because of the internet, and we have internet because we have satellites. Now, if you could, I hope all of you can see a few of these pictures on the screen. What is something common in all of these pictures? We've got a phone camera, we have a Wi-Fi signal, we have a water filter, we have some weather information, a GPS, and some satellite imagery. So here, I have shared already what these images are. You don't have to guess. Now, what is one thing that is common in all of these? So what's common here is, as again, Wanjiku, yes, somebody answered, the satellites. But more than satellites, what is also common with these is the use of space technology. Now, when I talk about, say, a GPS signal, or when I talk about having a water purifier, or when we talk about a camera, how all of these things are connected to spaces, because most of these things we have now because they were initially used in space missions. Whether it is a camera that we so commonly use now for selfies, our TikTok videos, Instagram videos, all of that, or it's internet, without which it's very difficult to imagine having this conversation, or a lot of things that we so casually do now. Satellite imageries, which help us understanding so much about agriculture, a lot of other applications, weather forecasting, and even water purifier, because when people are going for space missions, for example, when we have humans and astronauts in the space station, now we don't have a water connection there for them. They have to reuse whatever water they have, whether it is sweat or whatever source of liquid they have, they reuse all of this. Yes, even the sweat is filtered and they drink all of it because they don't have water coming from anywhere there. So now this technology is again an example that how space missions help us here on Earth as well. Yes, space is extremely fascinating when we talk about going beyond Earth to Moon to Mars and just exploring the endless universe. But space also has some very, very important utilizations here on Earth for our day-to-day life, and which is something I would love for all of you to focus about and to learn more on. So going ahead, now there is a lot of focus on the space industry. And as I mentioned, there is a lot of usage that space technology has. It is estimated that by 2040, the space industry will be valued at $1 trillion. This is a huge number. Now, you don't have to care about this number right now as students. But what you need to understand here is that this means that the space missions are going to expand. This means that more opportunities are going to come in the space industry. And so this means that you can be a part of this space industry, this economy, in whatever role you want to be a part of. I will come to the career options as well, some of which Govind has already touched upon. But why I wanted to share this number is that because space industry is expanding. Today you're hearing from different kind of people who are a part of space industry, but very, very different profiles. Same way you can be a part of and make sure that you utilize these opportunities that the industry has for you. Now, here's an example that I have put. I'm not sure how many of you know about this project SAT for farming. So this is Ghana, which launched its first satellite in 2017 to monitor its coastal environments, also has this program called SAT for Farming program, which is used to help many small-scale cocoa farmers navigate climate conditions using satellite imagery that allows them to know about the weather and accordingly plan their crops. And hence, it just makes their work better and easier. Now, this is just one example. This way, we have a lot of examples where space technology is being used. So African nations also have been using satellites to get a better view of continental problems, of climate change, of tackling some social economic strife, and a variety of them. Now, this means that expansion of satellite sector could have transformative effects on our societies for education, for employment, and for various basic services. Now, if you become part of space industry in your country, and if you add on to the missions, if you add on to the satellites, you can make something like internet more and more accessible for people in the remotest of areas and make sure that they know all of this information that you have. Because in India, it's the same thing. We still have parts where, remote areas, people don't have internet, which is so difficult to imagine because internet is so easily available now, right? So you can take up this role. You could be a part of this industry and make sure that something like internet reaches to the remotest areas of your country, which just means that if there will be internet, more people will be educated. They will know about more employment opportunities that they can take. And that is how you can, while following your passion and interest for space, you can also help making others' lives better. So this was just one example, and this is how there are many other examples that are, which is where we have space technology that is being used. Now, here are some things that I have listed, although some of these, when Govind was talking about Vyomika Space Academy's courses, some of these they're already touching upon. So the use of space technology, like I talked about previously, is expanding, and it has changed many industries and has made things easier. Space tourism, space robotics, astronomy, astrophysics, remote sensing, earth science, agriculture monitoring, weather forecasting, space medicine, engineering, space architecture, space mining, planetary geology, astrobiology, satellite communication, spacecraft propulsion, satellite manufacturing, space farming. So you name it, and there will be something that space industry has connect with. That is what the beauty of this subject is, I would say. Now, coming to some of the career options that are there in the space industry. Now, you've already heard from a space lawyer, you've heard from an educator, you've heard from an aerospace engineer, you're hearing from a space journalist. So you already can see the diversity that space industry has. If you are somebody who is more inclined towards engineering and you love, creating things, making things work, finding solutions that way, then you could be an aerospace engineer. You could even be an electronics engineer, a mechanical engineer, and be a part of the space industry. If you are somebody who likes to explore a particular subject more, get deep into studying it, you could be a researcher. You could be an astrobiologist because maybe you love bio so much. You could be an astrophysicist. You could be a technician. You could be a scientist. If you are somebody who likes environment more, you will find an application in the space industry even for that. Now, let's say you are somebody who's not so much great with technical things, like I wasn't the best with the technicalities of things, but maybe you are good with communication, then you could be a space journalist. Maybe you like capturing things, you could be an astrophotographer. You could produce content around space. You could be a public relations specialist if you like speaking to people and putting out about the information that is happening in your organization that is working on space. You could be a technical writer, or you could be an educator, just inspiring more kids to be a part of this industry. So it is like a match the following game where you pick up what your skill is, what your interest is, and 95% of the times or more, you will find something that it is connected with the space industry, because this industry is so vast and it is linked to so many other industries. So majority of the times you will find a link to whichever field you want to be a part of, and take this passion that you have about space into your profession. Now, I'll very quickly just give a very quick information about what space journalism is about. So how I say space journalism is where my curiosity and creativity get to converge. So I have 4 C's which are very important for me: curiosity, creativity, communication, and consciousness. And space journalism for me brings all of this together, because I get to speak to a lot of people from the space industry. I get to attend different events. I get to know about the spacecrafts, aircrafts, even some unmanned things. I get to see some really cool acrobatics and also then research and write about them. And this is where my interest was. I realized I loved speaking, I loved researching, and I loved writing, and I combined all of this in this field. So when we talk about some of the skills that you might need for the space industry, before I do that and I wrap up with that, here's one last question. Me being a journalist, I love to ask questions. I've already asked you a lot of questions. And here's one last question that I have for you. Do you know that we can look into the past? Yes, no, I would love the students to answer. Do you think, can we look into the past? I'll just wait for 30 seconds. Okay, yes, some of them say so. That's interesting. Yes, I have a lot of yeses coming, which is great. So I'm assuming that you are aware of why I say that we can look into, right? A lot of yeses there. So when I say that we can look into the past, there's this simple fact that we have about our universe, and a fact from space, which as a child was one of my favorite facts when I got to know about it, that when we look at the stars or the sun, we are actually looking at how they were when the light left. For instance, when we look at the sun, we are looking at it as how it was about 8 minutes back. So this is just something which was very fascinating for me as a child, that, oh my God, I'm looking into the past, and things like that. So what I feel space industry does is it triggers your curiosity. It answers your curiosity, and it makes you ambitious. It makes you want to explore more, try out more things. So when somebody asks me what are the skills and what are the mentality, what is the kind of mentality we need to be a part of the space industry, I always say that at the basic, you just have to be very curious, wanting to ask more, and then wanting to try finding an answer to that question, not giving up on those questions, being ambitious, exploring, and also being conscious. Because I think as universe, when we look at this, we realize that beyond all these borders and differences, we are ultimately all part of a cosmic civilization. So I feel curiosity, consciousness, exploration, ambition, these are some things that space as a subject just curates in you very, very beautifully. And as Nelson Mandela himself said, that a winner is a dreamer who never gives up. And that's what it is with the space industry, because these missions, these questions don't have answers, and you have to keep finding. So you have to have patience and not give up on those things. Lastly, I just want to share this with you guys, that let your dreams and efforts know no limits. As it is said that sky is the limit, which translates for me into sky has no limits, so there are no limits. So don't let anything put limits to what you want to do. I'm a part of the space industry without having the best technical background, and yet I am. So whatever your interests are, find them and work towards your dreams and your own path, and you'll find your way. With species, this is another thing that while STEM is important, I'm also trying to focus on STEAM, because engineering, maths, technical sciences, also arts can be a part of it. And space is one subject, I think, which allows arts, science, spirituality, philosophy, all of it to just come together and very beautifully coexist. So this is the thought that I would love to leave you all with. I hope you'll go back with some sort of a more information and curiosity about this subject and find your path. Thank you so much.
The exploration of space will go ahead, and it is one of the great adventures of all time.